everyone. Welcome to the Mills Sharma Show. I'm your host, Mills Sharma, and today my guest is Fermi Babalola, who is creating a nonprofit organization to get clean water to disenfranchised people across the globe. And its main point is to focus on bringing natural chemical medicine to people all throughout the world that are deficient in this. And this goes on to mention micronutrients, which I know little about, as I'm sure many of you guys don't know much about. So Fermi, I've got to ask you, what drove you to start up something like ambitious like this? And also, I know some people might think, well, I can maybe donate to something like this or initiative. So what's the point of starting something up when you could just send money and do something more convenient? How would you respond to that?
First, thank you for having me, Willen. Okay, so with this whole micronutrient stuff and like starting a nonprofit, I literally went through like so many different things trying to like devise a plan of like how to do this. And then I thought best to do something that's not for profit when it comes to like our goal. Our goal is to help other people, right? So like there's this nonprofit that I got in touch with called Charity Water, and they do the same exact thing, but they're different as in all the money they get from donations, 100% goes to the wells. They go to like just straight up like water. That's it. They go for the projects. All right. And most charities don't donate 100% of the money because of the fact they have to fund staff, they have to fund like just so many other things, right? Right. People need to get paid, and they're devoting like 24 hours of the day to that company, that organization, right? So like I kind of got in touch with them and I try to like understand like what they do. And but that kind of sparked a initiative for me. Like I could do this for the micronutrients. I could do this for another issue that's plaguing the world. Because like from that, I figured out like 638 million people they don't have clean water, right? And then like 2 billion people are deficient in more than one micronutrient, which is leading them to like infertility. It's leading them to have like iodine. The lack of iodine in a woman when she gives birth, what happens is like the kid is more likely to have some sort of mental issue, right? And that's like the leading cause of mental retardation in kids now. So that's the problem. And like people think it's just like normal, but it's not normal. We can fix it, right? So that's why I was like, okay, let's do this. And I'm still working on different things and how like to like bring it out into the world, which is going to be like slow and steady, but because you can't just like run in it like that and then mess up. Yeah, but like, yeah, I'm supposed to like make mistakes through it all, but I think like just marketing correctly, telling people about it correctly in the right way will bring them closer to this. Understand, because it's plaguing all of us. You like no matter how healthy you are, you still have some sort of deficiency in your body, and it's affecting you in a negative way. So by us correcting it, that's perfect. So that's why I think it's very important to like follow the footsteps of that organization, Charity Water, which they do a stupendous job. So yeah.
Great. Yeah, I think you definitely nailed important things. But like starting up something, I know that's important that you said that you could make mistakes on the way, because I know if you like go full head, dive into an ocean, it's like, oh, they just want to give up. Like, oh, like, I don't want to do all this. And like, a lot of people, I think, would just get stuck in the trap of it's too much work. Like, it's not going to amount to anything, and like a dangerous cycle, which I've seen, because some people would think that they're like I'm just Mill and I'm just Fermi, like I'm just this and that's it. I'm only 20. Like, what am I going to do? But I think it's definitely important that a few steps forward is much better than just standing in the same place. And I think I'm sure you agree with that too. And also, it's really fascinating you talked about the iodine deficiency, because that not only affects women with today, but also like future generations too, because that's like 2 billion people. I mean, if they all have multiple children, that could affect a whole host of people. Like
It's bad. It's scary.
Yeah, because
Like,
it's funny because I heard of things like some people like going abroad and giving and like creating a well for people, clean water
yeah, yeah.
well, which of course is good, but that's I'm sure like it doesn't cover the deeper issue with like how clean is the water that they're bringing over and all those questions. So that's really good.
Yeah. It's
This,
it's a step in the right direction with the water part, 100%. And like clean like charity water, what else they do? Like another thing they do is like with the water part, they also teach about sanitation. They try to also integrate like education into it and like teach them like things they can do to like have like agriculture in their community, like how they can make their own food and this and like it's so like the donations for charity water is not just like a one-time donation, because one-time donations do a lot, but also like it helps the project over time. But if it's a continuous donation, like the well can be fixed, right? If there's any problem that comes up with the well, right? Any issues. And also you can keep shipping stuff out to them, like maybe food, like just clothes, things, basic necessities. Like we know that hierarchy of needs, right? Where it talks about like basic necessity and then you have like self-affirmation and everything, right? So like there's a lot of people still in that first stage.
mm,
Like right now, as Americans, we're like, this, that. Like, I want the new iPhone, but these people don't even have water. They don't even have food, like at all. So that's the issue, right? So,
yeah,
and
I just want to add, and not only that, like those people in the poor countries, they're walking miles away to get
yeah,
hydration with things that are deficient, not even clean water a lot of
yeah,
times.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
but I want to ask you, first of all, when did you really start this? Like what?
I kind of started it in like a very like tough time in my life personally, and I think all good things, all beneficial things in your life really start at that time, right? So this was like close to, I started thinking about it in my mind, close to the time when they let us out of school, like in March-ish area. And then towards the summer area, that's when they really got in there. And then it was like a big like hit in my life in that area and like just personally. So after that, like then start piecing together, and then I started to put it down on paper because I don't really first put things on paper because then I'm just gonna be like, oh, that's just another idea. But
Mhm.
that thing just kept going on, and I found it like funny you said that like people like put themselves like I'm only 20, I'm only 18, and everything like I can't do anything great, but they forget the people that have like changed the world, brought theories in the world that like just they've changed the world in some way. It started from their 15-year old to like 22, you know? Like they say the best physicist, like you can only like mathematicians, like their contribution, the best ones came at that age range. It
Wow.
always did. Like think about it, like what's his name? Ooh, I forgot his name. Uh theory of no, not gravitation. Isaac Newton. Isaac
Isaac
Newton.
Newton. Right.
Yeah. He discovered most of his theories. He created calculus during the plague,
Wow.
right? The plague. He sat
That's
down and he just did it, right? These like they're practically kids who that like what's his name? Like Thomas Jefferson, not Thomas Jefferson, like Alexander Hamilton, like the founding fathers, the people who created the United States of America, like wrote the like had part in the Constitution. Like they fought during the wars. They were kids basically. They were our age, right? So like this is like the best time for us to actually like put our plans into, because once you really get into like 25, 26, you have so much responsibility. Right now we don't really have responsibility.
yeah. That's a huge point you made. I 100% agree with that because I think a lot of people, and I mean, I've been guilty of this too. Like you see on like social media or online, people are very famous. You're like, man, like I want to be there and all that stuff. And a lot of times, nothing wrong with that, but a lot of times people realize like a lot of those people, when you start off, you're not really starting off on top like that. Like they haven't always been up there. My main point, they're not always on top.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think a lot of people think like, oh, like I'm not. If I keep doing my own content, and I'm just thinking of creator perspective or brainstorming, they're either afraid of being embarrassed or failing, which of course, I mean, like you said, you thought of this in a poor time of your life. Like some good things are going to come up. I mean, there's always things that come up that you can benefit from in a time of hardship. I think a lot of people don't pounce on that opportunity. I guess I'm trying to say. So that's really cool. You're doing that. But I want to say with this organization, what's the name of it again? Charity Water, is that what the name of it is? Or
the organization I saw, I got inspiration from was Charity Water, but like my organization for the whole thing, like I have two. So like the education part is Babs Advanced Nutrition, the one I posted on Instagram recently.
Okay.
Right. And then the company itself, it's called Invictus, and it deals with the water part, and it deals with the getting out. Like it's the nonprofit itself. Babs Advanced Nutrition's me, like that's more of like a downtime sort of thing. And Invictus is what I want to focus on with because the goal is to find communities that need our help, and we'll fund them, and we'll go do that ourselves. And the best part of it is we're not just going to be a normal charity that you give money to and you never see what happens. Like we're going to show you videos, we're going to send you emails. Like that's the thing. Like we're going to continuously do that. We're going to create like a personal relationship with our donors. Even if it's a one-time donation, you still contributed so much to like what we're going to do, right? You're changing someone's life. Because let's say it's like Indonesia. You take $100 to Indonesia, like you're a millionaire. So like the exchange rate is great. So we can let's say we got like a donation of $100. We take that and try to work with some communities in Indonesia. We'll do so much because the exchange rate, we live in America, thank God, right? So we can bring our money down there and then build different stuff in communities. I don't know why this doesn't happen too often. This is problematic. I go into a 2-hour conversation about that. It pisses me off.
Yeah, that's
annoying.
That's really I think the engagement piece is very important with catering to younger people, I don't know, between our age and 30s, or even anybody, because a lot of people people don't like putting their money into something they know little about, and they don't want to feel scammed or something like that. So that's very important.
You have to build trust, 100%.
Yeah, and so with the advanced Babs nutrition, would that really be more of educating people on nutrients and water, or is that something more than that?
Yeah, that's basically what it is. It's Babs Advanced Nutrition is basically just teaching about nutrition on the platforms such as Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, whatever. We just teach them about basic nutrition, like things you need in your body, what type of macros you should consume, what spikes your blood sugar. If you're having issues like continuous headaches, this could be the causes of it. There's a lot of nutrition stuff on Instagram online, but the thing is, a lot of them also have a little bit of problem that I see, either a political issue or just a personal issue. Personally, when it comes to facts, you shouldn't really I'm more into helping people, right? So I have to kind of find the balance of making them feel calm and also telling them the truth. People think this big one, this biggest problem I see is people think that meat, red meat, is bad for you, while it's not. Red meat is our ancestors' food, because what always existed, because we have seasons, right? But meat, cattle, all that, they don't have seasons. They'll always exist. They always have existed, and our ancestors hunted for them, right? Like
Right.
plants and everything like that. Like they had their cycles. Broccoli was not always around. Blueberries weren't always around, right? And then we have all these like GMO stuff that we brought into our diet, and they're like, the same people that tell us not to consume red meat are like, be like, eat a donut, it's okay. And I'm just like, excuse me? Like the American Heart Association on their website said, consume more polyunsaturated fat, which is a very oxidative like fat in your body. Like you consume it, it'll inflame your body like incredibly. It's in everything, by the way. Almost everything we eat at school, especially, it's in there. And they like to stay away from saturated fat. It's not good for you. Your brain is saturated fat. Your brain is basically that. If you strip away the necessity, there's problems. There's issues in the body. And like they're like, kale is a superfood, but kale is not a superfood. It's actually really toxic for most people, and they don't know that. Right? And it's not even bioactive, like at all. Like you have to eat so much kale for you to get any sort of like benefits from it. But from what you can get from kale, take like one slice of liver. You can get from one slice of liver, you can get all the benefits of kale 3 times of it. Like that's the issue.
Wow. Okay,
so it scares me.
That's a good point. There's so much, like you said, there's so much data and information on nutrition, what's good, what's bad, and obviously a lot of contradictions, of course. And I've seen this a lot, but I've seen this advertisement go around numerous times, and this is more like for like having a good physique and like for lifting. But I'm wondering, regarding nutrition, do different people respond better with different nutrients, or do you think it's more universal?
Oh, that's a great question. So, like, I'll answer this by saying, having like a backstory. So I'm from Nigeria. I was born there. My parents and their parents, like from like that part of Nigeria, right? And you could have and I came to the United States, right? I started eating American food, right? So I'm going to be introduced to new diseases that we don't normally get in Nigeria, right?
Right.
So, but the thing is, like, let's say I want to get on a diet and like I want to get on a carnivore diet because it's highly bioactive and I need nutrients. I need just to get fueled back up again. It could not work for me. A plant-based diet could work for me, and a plant-based diet could not work for me. It depends on your genetics. It depends on where you're from. So people from the north, more from the north, right? People from like Russia area, Inuits, all that stuff, they benefit from more meat, right? My body is better on higher carb, higher fat, right? Higher carb, higher fat. Fat like monounsaturated fat, saturated fat, not polyunsaturated fat. You gotta take that away from your system. But like ancestors wise, like my parents and all that stuff, like genetically, berries are good for us. Protein is good, but fat is better. Because I notice when I eat higher fats and I eat higher carbs, what happens? I have my cortisol is very low. Like I feel better, right? But if I have an higher intake of protein, as you know, all bodybuilders, all gym shark people, like, oh, make sure you eat a lot of protein, right? The protein spikes my cortisol in my body. I feel more on edge, right? And that's an issue. Like no matter how much I work out, it still hurts. Like I still feel like my heart rate is high. Something's going on, right? But I decreased the protein, and I'm not decreasing too much. I just don't eat as much as like these bodybuilders say you should eat. And I feel better. But it depends on the person. So like, let's say like someone asks me through my company, like Babs Advanced Nutrition, like, oh, I want to get on a diet. I'll be like, okay, tell me where you're from, like genetically. Like, oh, I was born, my parents were this, they're Italian, this and that. Okay, then I'll kind of speculate. The fact is, you can work on more. Like you definitely will benefit on fat. You'll definitely benefit on carbs. You definitely benefit on protein. But we have to find the right ratio for you, right? No one should not eat a certain type of food, but there are certain foods you should not consume in like excess. Like I eat 2 avocados almost a day, right?
Wow. Okay.
But if I ate 2 muffins a day, my body's not gonna like that at all, right? Like if I even ate like a jar or like a handful of like peanuts every day, my body's not gonna like that too. Why? Like you have to kind of listen to your body, first of all, and also your genetics play a role in how you feel when whatever you're eating. Like Mike Tyson himself, he went on a vegan diet. He said he felt like crap. He had no power. He had nothing. And he didn't go on a vegan diet that was like full of bread and everything too, because that's also very inflammatory to the body. Like he went on a real good vegan diet. He said he had no energy, nothing. He couldn't box correctly. So they switched him into more of like meat based, and he got his strength back. And like in like 4 folds, like he was strong again. He said he felt like he ran through a wall. Like he felt it, right? You could run through a wall and still make it out alive, that sort of thing. So it's like, it's about your genetics. It's really about your genetics. Like, don't believe all these fad diets. Like, yeah, you can go on keto, you can go on carnivore, you can go on paleo. But the thing is, what does your body like best? All right. Some people will go on a vegan diet and they feel perfectly fine. That's great. But whenever you go on a vegan diet, don't consume all this bread. Like, I do not like vegan diets, but like I hate when people are like I'm a vegetarian, but all they eat is bread. Eat your plants. Like eat your plants. Like that's important. All right. Don't eat bread all day long because that will clog your arteries like the Egyptians. Like they were known as bread eaters. Like they had high amounts of cardiovascular disease.
Wow. Okay, man, that's very interesting. So here's what I think is really interesting. I see this a lot with nutrition. So obviously, health class, they always show like the triangle, like eat this, don't eat this, don't eat this.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure from what you're saying, it sounds like having that kind of mindset is kind of dangerous because for one thing, you're kind of almost indoctrinated to believe this is the right set of beliefs in eating and consumption. This is right and that's wrong. Whereas for different people that come from different parts of the world, which the United States, I mean, all different kinds of people are in the U.S.
Oh yeah.
So that'd be really bad. I feel like because so I would say one thing is that there's vegetarians that might say, oh, like they might say this is why I think it's really hard because I've met some people that are vegetarian and they very strictly they make it like a moralistic kind of issue rather than a nutrition kind of issue. They may say, oh, it's like it's violence against animals, it's violence against this, or I've heard the argument that it's better for the environment to consume less animals. So do you have any idea how to, I guess, communicate or maybe like if they're open to it, like telling them more about this kind of diet and how to open them up to that and combat that?
Yeah, I would say the best way to approach this sort of thing when it comes to like if it's more like I want to be a vegan or vegetarian or even a carnivore because of this ideology, right? Is always ideologies are a little bit problematic in the end, right? Like sometimes they can work, sometimes it's like with anything. It's like a knife. It's like good. It could be used for good and it could be used for bad, right? So my thing is like if there was a vegan in my midst, like and she's like he or she is like actually like making conversation about it, and I don't have to like be like, oh, why are you vegan, all that stuff, because I'm not gonna do that. It's your choice. But like if the person's talking to me, I'll be like, okay, how do you feel? She's like, because I've talked to a lot of vegans because I love just talking about people's like health, and that's good. There's the same thing. It's usually like the lack of there's a lot of fatigue in there. All right, it's a problem, and I feel like because especially I I worry for a woman, especially when she's on a vegan diet, because of the fact that.
Let me interrupt you really quick.
Yeah.
Because I've heard around, like, this is kind of, and you might dive into this too, that women, that it hurts with them having the ability to bear children being vegan. I don't know if you're going to go into that, but I've heard that before, but I don't know if you have any insight on that or no.
So
if not, then you can continue what you were saying.
I can make I can make like a correlation, not a causation, of the reason why this could take place. Like a big issue with like it's going to be also said in Invictus and Bab's Advanced Nutrition is the fact that there's pesticides in our food, right? And there's in our plants especially. And when there's a vegan, and like let's say the vegan actually eats like a lot of plants, right? If he or she is not buying it organic, right? Oh, Jesus, it's not going to be good. There's this big company, that pesticide company, Monsanto. But like, it's bad. There's this guy, Alex Jones, right? People like, we don't like Alex Jones. He's just conspiracy theory. And because he said this thing that they were turning the frogs gay, and he didn't mean that he didn't mean that in a negative thing. He's not trying to like say like gay is bad or like this. He's trying to just say that they found out that over like because they're spraying, those sprays have gotten into like the ecosystem a little bit, and the frogs are becoming genetically changing over time. Why? It's because these pesticides ruin the testosterone estrogen balance of the body. Right?
Wow, yeah.
So when you consume a lot of pesticide-filled plants, pesticide-filled ingredients especially, what happens is your hormones are imbalanced like crazy. And that is a problem, because like I want to especially focus on women when it comes to like Invictus, because of the fact that like hypothyroidism, thyroid issues, just that estrogen, like dude, like this crazy fact that scares me especially is the fact that like breast cancer, like it was like around 50 years old, right? Maybe like women get breast cancer like 50 years old, maybe like 40 years ago. Then it started climbing to 40 and 43. Like 45, 43, then it started going into the creeping late 30s. And now it's creeping into the early 30s. Breast cancer. Why? It's because of the fact that it's, okay, when people are eating unhealthy, there's a lot of reasons for it. But the thing is, let's say they were eating unhealthy, but with good ingredients, right? They were eating pizza that was not with just dough that was like stripped away of every single thing possible in there, right? If they were eating that, there wouldn't be that much problems. But all these ingredients put into this prepackaged food, like there's a saying, if it came from a plant, eat it. If it was made in a plant, don't eat it. Because it's literally just pesticides, and it affects it affects it. So veganism, like being a vegan, if like you're eating a lot of like plants and you're not buying it organic, like they found that like the worst plants that they found was plants and fruits especially is strawberry, right, which is consumed a lot, and spinach, bad one. They found like 98% of all tested spinach have high amounts of pesticides. And it hijacks it causes autoimmune issues. It causes almost everything. I think it's also the leading cause in anything related to testosterone, estrogen issues for men and women. Right?
Well, yeah, I know that testosterone levels for men they're at an all-time low, I'm pretty sure. Like,
yeah.
And that could be a reason for, I mean, it sounds like it's definitely affecting that for men. But
yeah.
I haven't heard that about women, though. So that's very interesting you're focusing on women and regarding estrogen levels, too. So
yeah. No, because my mom kind of has, like she's been getting, just minor hiccups in, like, her breast when it comes to just things like that. And I've been trying to help her. My mom is a little bit too tough, so it's kind of hard to like. Yeah, but
okay.
That's the issue. But I like I've talked to like people in school that like, oh, my family, like I have a family history of hypothyroidism, this and that, and like they all have breast cancer, they have this and that. I'm just ooh, like it's getting worse, and I believe like with the right stuff, don't go to the like. My thing is don't get like chemo is great, all that stuff. They can help, but for everything that exists in this world, for every like I don't know what do they call it? For every medical intervention, right, that exists, any like drugs created by the FDA and any like prescription pill, for that exists, there's a natural substance given by God Himself to us that can help you way better. Because all these drugs have side effects.
Yeah.
They kill people, like statins. Like, no, like, we can't have that. Like, don't put that in your body. Like, blood pressure issues, like, you can fix blood pressure, like, quick. Like, if someone came to me and, like, because I've actually already did this, like, for one of my clients, like, it's so easy. You want to fix blood pressure? It's easy, but it's also strict. You have to cut some stuff you don't want to cut from your life. You're going to have to cut it out. That's the scary part. People don't want to do that.
Yeah. Especially because I think in American culture we have so many options to choose from. So, like good options at the same. I mean, in a way, in a healthy way, that could be great, but also in an unhealthy way, it's like maybe I'll stop eating this, but I'll transition to this, which is much more sugar or much more fats that aren't good for you. So
Yeah.
I think that's definitely a huge issue. But it's funny you were talking about earlier what I mentioned about organic foods, and so my dad's side of the family, they're all in India, and when I was there and I'm eating the foods there, I'm like, wow, like these vegetables are very delicious. I almost couldn't believe they're vegetables. I was like, what am I eating right now? It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And even like when I was on vacation a few years ago after high school graduation in like Europe in Italy, and I'm sure they have. I mean, the food was just much more tasty, and maybe that was just because it was good Italian food, or they don't have GMOs, which I'm probably leaning
They have
to that.
strict laws with that. Very strict
Right.
laws.
That's what I've heard. So it's amazing, and I'm thinking like in a vegan diet, in a place where everything's organic and that's almost normal, everything's organic. Like it's very easy to be like, yeah, I'm just gonna avoid chicken, just eat these vegetables, and people in India will probably. At least my dad's side of the family, a lot of them are vegetarian. They're healthy. So here, it's much more complicated with the pesticides and everything because, if anything, there's not too much. Like we don't know too much about it besides what you're saying. I don't know too much about it. People that aren't really diving into the research, don't know much about it because it's just completely. I mean, rare how you say it. They don't want that to be in the public sphere because they lose a lot of money. So,
yeah,
and then plus with the food pyramid, it's so complicated because then like people say there's lobbyists that lobby on that and give money to say this, to consume this and this. So it's very difficult to know where the truth is.
The lobbyist, bro.
Yeah, and so one thing I want to mention for someone that could you say point to genetics, like, do you mean someone's own individual genetic or the area that they're from? Like, what is more accurate, would you say, for nutrition and things like that?
So, like, both ways could be used for good in so many forms. But like from where you're from, like when you do like an ancestry test, DNA test, they can check like around like where like you've been saturated, where you've been like where you're from. So like mine is going to be like shown as West Africa area, right? And then through like statistics and data that have been collected for years and years and years, they can find that these people are normally deficient in B vitamins. They can find that these people usually have hypertension. These people tend to have this. So I kind of get like a scope of like, this is what could be happening to me, right? And that's with your if you also do like a thing with like your parents, or you can find out your specific DNA, you could end up being susceptible through your parents' gene and your grandparents' gene to like heart disease, to like Alzheimer's, all that. You can figure that stuff out. And like I think we should do this at this age. Like this is the prime age to learn stuff like this. So like if you figure all that out, you did all the right tests, you talk to the right people, right? Because it's usually not doctors going to be the right people for that. But you talk to the right people, right? What happens? You know that, okay, you don't even have to do like that sort of test. Talk to your parents. Ask them like, what did my grandpa have? What did my great grandpa die from? What did they have? Did they complain about some issues and stuff like that? Once you know that, like, okay, 3 of my grandparents had Alzheimer's. Maybe I'm going to get it. So let me start putting myself on a diet where I can fight Alzheimer's, right? Schizophrenia itself, right? Like, I get nerdy when it comes to stuff like this, but schizophrenia, like depression, anxiety, like people hate when someone says it's their chemical imbalances, but I promise you, like depression is not a good person. It's not a good friend. Like I promise, but it is a chemical imbalance in the body. It's such a bad. And why I say this is because I've done the studies, I've read the books, and I've seen that, wow, like schizophrenia, especially, like you expect it to just like someone, like you went AWire. With the right treatments, they call it biotherapy treatment, right? With the right treatment of nutrients, because it's also oxidative stress to the brain, right? They have low B vitamins, which are necessary for anything related to anxiety, depression, anything related to oxidative stress, anything related to energy or a hyper like brain, right? And like anything related to all those synapses and all that stuff. Like B vitamins are essential. And guess what? Most people are deficient in that. And that's why I'm scared too, because vegans and vegetarians cannot get B vitamins. Like they're deficient in B12 especially. And B12, that's why a lot of vegans over time, they end up getting some sort of neuropathy, some sort of nerve pain, energy issue, because they're depleting their B12 because they don't have B12. B12 you can, unless if you want a synthetic version of it, like B12 can be, it's meat. It's animal products that you get B12 in. Like, let's say you just one day a week, just consume one animal product. You'll be good. Consume liver one day a week while being a vegan. That's perfect. That's perfect. Like, just be like liver.
So I want to hear your take on this though, because this is one thing where I have a mixed opinion on, is like things like supplements or like vitamins like in like a pill sort of way, like eating vitamins like that.
Okay.
So obviously, I just prefer eating it from food. Just I think it's more natural, obviously. But would that be an adequate substitute for people that are vegetarian or like people that are deficient in it, or at least to start off with? Because I know like changing the diet is probably the best thing to do. But what would you say to people that would have supplements to substitute that deficiency to fill that void?
Yeah. So like with Invictus, what we're gonna send these communities, well, because first of all, we're gonna figure out what they will probably be predisposed to. Like we're gonna get in touch with communities and first talk to them, see what's going on with their community when it comes to health wise. Are they having neuropathy? Are they having like issues with their memory? Are they having issues with just movement, joint pain, all that stuff? We figure that out, and we figure out their climate, like vitamin D and stuff. Like 98% of people are deficient in vitamin D, and it's necessary for everything in your body. So like those, like we're gonna send the right bioavailability of supplements to them, right? With instructions, we're going to talk to them, and hopefully my goal is to partner with more of like a naturopath, so he can work with us, he or she can work with us, and we just kind of like help them too with that. So like with a vegan, they normally end up going on a B12, like later in life, they go on a B12 supplement. Why? Because it's so low in their body. And like it's necessary, but like people just eat have supplements. Like I have had my fair share of supplements. Like when I was still like researching early. Well, I'm still researching, but like more like earlier in my like 2 years is like I just kind of like 2 years ago I like kind of had like a lot of supplements, and I started becoming more like understanding of it, and then like my views on supplements kind of changed because it was like food is important, but the thing is some people don't have access to the food, but they're also getting plagued with illnesses and diseases from the lack of getting like certain micronutrients, right? So we send them that. So like vegans, like they need to if they check their B12 levels once a year, if they see that keeps depleting, they should just supplement with a good dosage of B12 and also with iron, because also they get like a really like people say like, oh, spinach has a lot of iron, all that stuff. Broccoli has a lot of iron and rice. But the thing is, they're not bioavailable. They're not bioavailable to your body. Like your body only takes like 5% of it. It doesn't. But like you eat liver, you eat like a steak, right? You get so much nutrients. But the thing is, it must be grass fed, right?
Mm.
Because like this is another ethical issue that I have a problem with. Like I have a problem with like the whole meat industry. They will take cattle, they will take chickens, especially that's why I eat pasture raised eggs, because of the fact that like these chicken, it's not they're not put in like a hen house for like from the day they were born to the day they die and stuffed with food. That some of them even eat their own crap. That's what they do. They feed them that, and then
Wow.
like yeah. So you can tell the color, like the yolk. If the yolk is like yellow, like this, if the yolk is like really, really yellow, like dull yellow, that like you can see by the packaging, it would say like cage free is bullshit. Promise you.
Okay,
Like
why is that? Why is that? Because I've seen like people say, "Oh, it's cage." They'll advertise cage free, but why is that not mean
so
anything?
we have like caged, right? We have pasture raised, we have free range, cage free. So we have caged, right? So it means like they were caged eggs. They're the ones with barely any labels on it, just generic egg looking stuff like you buy at the supermarket, right? And then you have the one that said cage free. So like the normal cage one, they sit in like a square foot, like that's where they are, like in the foot, right? Caged cage free just basically means that based on like the what the FDA has put as their restriction, they must be in a wider square foot. You know, it just a little bit. That's
Just
the
a
only
little bit more.
they're still in the house. They never get sun. Never get sun.
Oh, so they're not. So it basically just means they're a little bit more distant, but doesn't mean they're actually. There's not a drastic difference between the
There's no
cage.
difference whatsoever.
Wow.
So
Okay.
it's free. And then you have organic. It just means that they're not fed GMO food, right? They're not fit pesticide sprayed food, which is better in a direction. Like let's say you can't afford pasture raised, you should get cage free organic, right? At least they're not fed crap. They're not fed. They're fed like the eggs, they're not moving. They don't ever move. So imagine you're just eating unhealthy. That's what you're eating, unhealthy egg. But pasture raised is great. Why? Because they're in the pasture for most of their lives. They actually run around. They have community, all that
Much
stuff.
more natural too.
Natural.
Much
And
more natural.
yeah, so that's the thing. Like I think a lot of vegans and people who have like, that's sort of ethical dilemma. Like, oh, this is immoral, stuff like that. Even with cattle, with like I believe a cattle, like health. No, health. It's like always free. You can't chin health. But like just like cows and all that stuff. Like if they're put in just a place and they're just held there and being pumped food and they're just being slaughtered there and that's it, that's terrible. The right thing that should be done is let them graze the outside, let them walk around from the day like they're born till the day they're ready to be slaughtered, right? And it's a cycle of life. If we don't do it, like right, if we don't do it, they're gonna in some way an animal, a predator will come and do it, right? It's a cycle of life. There will always be some sort of death, right? But I think it's a matter of what type of death. Like hunters don't. I forgot. I'm not really versed in this area, but hunters don't believe that they're killing an animal. It's not really what that is. They have something else, like Joe Rogan talks about. It's not I'm killing the animal. It's like I forgot that term they use, but it's some sort of like it's like it's like a sacrifice. Not like a weird sacrifice, but not like a weird like that. It's just like a sacrifice, as in like the animal's putting himself up for us. Like
that's funny you said that because my dad and I actually watched a show last night that kind of follows that logic where he was hunting deer in his land and he's like has Native American heritage.
okay,
And after he killed the deer, he kind of like put the blood on it on his skin and kind of prayed almost and like thank the gods or thank the deer for his life.
yes.
So it's very. I don't know if that's a similar thing, but I got reminded from that.
That's literally what it like entails. Like some Native Americans, Native Indians, like back in the like what their ritual is like when they kill, they take the liver and they eat it raw.
Wow.
Raw. This doctor became like a carnivore. Like he's like eat meat. Like make sure you eat meat, and you can eat tubers and you eat berries, but because berries are the least toxic fruits for humans.
Mm.
They're the least toxic. Well, you have to get them organic because they also are sprayed. But like their genetic makeup, they're the least toxic. They don't affect us negatively. They're actually full of antioxidants. And then like tubers, they're very good for us. Like potatoes and stuff, like because potato is a resistant starch, so it digests in our it goes to our colon and feeds our microbiome, and our microbiome is involved in 80% of our immune system. The people who have the worst microbiomes and experience the worst depressions experience the biggest issue. And this is how you can tell depression is also a chemical imbalance, because you can link it to your gut. If your gut is very unhealthy, you're going to have depression, you're going to have anxiety, right? So that's how I kind of, like when I was going through my whole phase of like, I fixed it by like going down there, like with prayer, 100%, but also like I ate the right food and I fed my body like fermented food, tubers. I made sure I consumed, right? They were important. Like I consumed a lot of berries, I had a lot of meat, and I feel good. And I supplement with magnesium because whenever you're going through any sort of like things like anxiety, depression, all that stuff, you need magnesium. You need to calm your body, right? And I got B. I didn't even have to supplement with B vitamins, which because I get them from animal products. So like just this doctor, the carnivore doctor, he always like whenever he kills an animal, he eats the liver raw.
That's crazy. Wow.
He makes Rogan try it. Raw liver. I would never, but I like my.
Yeah.
So that's the thing.
All right. Very cool.
Yeah.
All right. I think we'll end on that.
Oh yeah.
I want to say so for people watching, where could they find more information about your organization or any information that's valuable?
For Babs Advanced Nutrition, you can find it on Pen X Babs, and we're working through a lot of stuff. We're in like developmental stage, and then for Invictus, you're gonna find it at school, like at Eastern University. I'm making the club first, and like making sure like kids, people our age can like, work with me in that area, and then like through that they can also see the nonprofit of it, and like I'm sure people are going to get involved. So like just you'll see posters of it in school, and that would be great. So, thanks for having me, dude.
Of course, I'll put the link in below. You can send it to me later, and then we'll figure it out.
All right.
Thank you for coming, Fermi. Appreciate it.
It was a pleasure.
Stop this.